Hi, this is Bill Fukui with Page One Solutions. I want to welcome you to today's FFAS presentation. And today we're going to share 20 practice building tips to grow your practice online. And I've only got about 20 minutes to share this information with you. So, with less than a minute per tip, we're going to need to blow through these pretty quickly. So, sharpen your pencils and let's get started. Let me take care of a couple of housekeeping items. Number one is I am Director of Sales and Marketing for Page One Solutions. And just as a disclosure, we do market plastic surgery practices, and the information we are sharing today, we also use as part of our business development services. So, with that aside, let's go ahead and get started. The first area we're going to focus on is on website design tips. And really, kind of what we want to start with is the most important things that practices need to generate is phone call leads. So your design really has to be developed in a way that strategically drives more phone calls and less focus on just any kind of leads like emails or chats or text, which are all important, but make sure that your phone call strategies are what dominates the design. So in order to do that, number two, the second tip is going to be the placement of your phone number. Make sure that it is in a highly visible place, typically high on the page, but also within the body of text. A lot of content I see never includes the phone number. And when people read uh, website content, they develop what is termed banner blindness. And a lot of the graphics and navigation and banners and things that you see outside of the content, they don't even see. They're so focused on the content, that's where their eyes are. And that's also where we need to be putting our phone number, including at the bottom when you end a page. Don't end in a dead end. Make sure you've got next step strategies to keep them moving. Uh, and then lastly, an important strategy that I see on a lot of websites is they may have those email forms on every page of the site that really pop off the page. And that tells people that, this is the primary way that we would like for you to contact us is through this email form. But that's not what we want. So I encourage you to also incorporate the phone number in those forms as the first option. And, for immediate assistance, please call us, or you can fill out the form. Okay. Tip number three, also leverage the look and how a phone number pops off the page. Leverage fonts and size and bolding and colors, those types of things, so that your website doesn't get camouflaged. And I see that a lot where, in the attempt to make the website so pretty and attractive and aesthetic looking, they sacrifice leads and phone calls because they bury the phone number where it's not an obvious subliminal message for them to pick up the phone and call. So try to make your phone number stand out. And then also, in terms of making it stand out, is the frequency. Just like in any other type of marketing, frequency is your friend when you want people to take specific actions and do things as a result of the exposure. This is, this is also true with your phone number on your website. Just like a radio spot, you may hear the phone number being read on an ad, on a 60-second ad, may have been read, three, four, as many as five times. And there's a reason for that. It's because it works. It makes the phone number more memorable and really drives people to take the actions. Same thing as on your website. As people are scrolling down, you're finding that websites today are designed where scrolling is more of the strategy than trying to fit everything in the screen. So as people move down the page, you need to make sure you've got your phone number high up in the banner, below your navigation, as calls to action in your forms, in the body of text, maybe down in the footer. It's not unusual to see a phone number as many as four or five times, particularly on those high priority destination pages. So make sure, especially those pages, you've got really strong calls to action for phone calls. So now that we've got, your website elements where we're trying to drive those calls into the office, What are we doing in terms of the overall image of the website? And to me, a website really is not an advertising. And if you look at your website as an advertising tool, I think you're missing the point. Websites today really have to be, it's almost like what we used to say the telephone used to be. It used to be an introduction to your practice. Well, today that's your website. And your website really needs to start building relationship, rapport, and connection with your online audience. And that starts with using more custom photography and photography, not just of you or even your staff, but even of your facility, of your practice. You spend all this money and time developing this environment that you want your patients to experience. Help them start experiencing that even online and take advantage of those investments that you've made in your office. Another section that's really important, and certainly more important today than it was, say, 5 or 10 years ago, is your About Us and your About the Surgeon page. These pages are typically some of your highest traffic pages. In fact, in some cases, it may be your second or third most frequently viewed page other than your home page. Mainly because consumers got so much information out there, it's less about just getting information about a procedure or treatment. They're really trying to learn more about your practice as they move down the sales funnel and the decision making process. So it's important for you to make sure when they reach that point where they're trying to compare providers that you've got really, more compelling information and again, photos, videos, um, patient testimonials or reviews, quotes. Those are the kinds of things that will build more credibility, help people get to know your provider on a deeper level and feel like they know them. And that's the goal. Tip number 7 is also look at your before and after gallery. This too is going to be one of your highest traffic pages or sections of your website. And we all know that. And yes, we want to put really nice, compelling, and really variety of pictures in there. But what most practices miss are calls to action and next step action items in those pages. They just want to show the before and after galleries and then hope people take an action. Keep in mind, people buy cosmetic and elective surgery emotionally. They only justify it with logic. Your before and after galleries are the section that stimulates and stirs emotions more than any other section. Take advantage of that and create those strong calls to action and move them through the buying cycle. Tip number 8. Now that we're getting to the point where we've got a better website, it's more compelling, the pages, we've got good stuff on there, we're trying to drive phone calls. Now, how do we get more people to the site? One of those things is SEO. And a strategy that we recommend today, as opposed to, say, 5 or 10 years ago, where they had a lot of pages, you just want to have as many pages as you can. Today, it's about having higher quality pages. And it may make sense in many cases to consolidate those niche, little thin content pages into a more authoritative page that both consumers stay on longer and Google will reward you with better listings for those authority types of pages. Tip number 9 is part of the content that you want to incorporate in there addresses the change in consumer search strategies. And many of those are driven by conversational search and those assistants like Siri and Google, where people are actually no longer required to go to a plastic surgeon's office to ask the questions. Many of the questions your consultations, those patients in consultations are asking, are questions that people are posting online. So we need to make sure that we're driving those types of queries, and because people don't look at searches in the same ways that they used to, so that those FAQ questions can directly connect with those consumer queries that are out there. So making sure that your content addresses consumer queries. And the other thing is there's those old static lists of keyword phrases. Don't rely so specifically on those. Start researching the actual queries that people are doing. Those targeted lists, it's not unusual for those lists to be so old, and quite frankly, anywhere from 70 to 80% of the keywords that are on there never get searched. So make sure that you're throwing the resources at where consumers really are, and many of them are going to be those FAQ questions. And then tip number 11 is to incorporate interactive content. Interactive content is what's more engaging for particularly smartphone users today because it's hard for them to always just read content. Having things like videos or video blogs or checklists or infographics that they can scroll through, SlideShare presentations, those are more interactive types of content. It's definitely the opportunity to keep people on the pages longer and make your information more digestible, and really stand out compared to a lot of your competitors who these prospects will probably also be visiting as well. So interactive content will also keep those people on the pages longer. Google will see those assets and reward you with more authoritative listings. Another strategy that we're going to address is paid advertising. A lot of firms or practices really don't, they want to avoid pay-per-click advertising. I will say that pay-per-click advertising or paid display advertising has a role, and in many cases, it can provide fill-in for those listings that aren't showing up organically, but also timing and getting your listings up and visibility more quickly as your organic campaigns start to take root. So some strategies on pay-per-click is the problem that a lot of practices have is they have no control or don't really think it's very creative to run pay-per-click ads when they can be. You really need to think through differentiators in the messaging and in the strategies that you're using in pay-per-click. For example, most practices will just have a budget that their pay-per-click specialist will just, okay, this is what we're going to spend this month, and they throw together generic ads and links to your about breast augmentation page or your facelift page, and then just let it run. Okay. Rather than doing that, there are strategic opportunities, whether it's seasonalities, whether it's even, for example, operating hours. So we've got practices where they'll offer 24/7 intake opportunities where they'll either have a service or chat services or other ways of taking intake after hours as well as over the weekends. And in those particular cases, it may make sense just to run, your paid advertising during those times when your competitors are asleep or really not able to help people. So there's different ways of thinking through, but be creative with how you leverage your pay-per-click advertising strategies. And part of that is in tip 13 is creating synergy. When you think through the keyword campaigns of what you're buying and the which ones you're going to bid on, keep in mind that those search phrases or the consumer search strategies also need to be incorporated into your ads and into your descriptions, and making sure that you maintain that momentum of what people are looking for. Even when they click on the page, you want them to go to pages that have that same information or those same keywords. Don't send them to a generic, certainly to the home page or to a general cosmetic surgery page. Send them to the specific page that's the most relevant to the keywords and the search that they're conducting, and you will maintain momentum in that buying cycle. Tip number 14 is to use competitive research, and really most practices when they do pay-per-click, they seldom look at what competitors are also doing. What's in their ads? What's in their descriptions? And when they get there, what promotions, what offers, what conversion elements do they have? Are they using landing pages? Are they sending them to the main procedure page? Or are they sending them to the home page, which we hope they are? But look at what your competitors are doing before you simply just throw ads out there. Do it strategically. You'll get a higher return on the clicks that you're spending. Tip number 15 is to think conversions. Many practices that no longer do landing pages are sending them to internal pages, and that's fine. But you need to make sure that those internal landing pages that you're sending them to have strong conversion elements and not just generic, information just for information's sake. Having conversion elements like promotions, offers, downloadable resources, things like that, that will convert visitors into actual contacts is important. So make sure that those pay-per-click dollars are actually turning into something where people are contacting them. And when they do, or when they do visit these pages, because we've spent so much money, tip number 16 is you've got to make the effort to stay in front of them. If they don't turn into an immediate lead, that doesn't mean that pay-per-click cost or that visit is wasted. We need to take extra efforts to motivate and move people through, and that can be through retargeting, through display ads, through Facebook, but also through segmented inbound marketing automation and having downloadable content that they can access and print. And when they do access that information, we can gather their contact information, their email, and then we need to stay in front of them and nurture them. So as many people that we can nurture, the better. Now that we've talked about converting those visitors into telephone leads and how we're branding that website and how we're promoting it and getting more visibility, whether through organic or through paid, now the leads come in. What do we do? Tip number 17 is focusing in on some of the follow-up marketing and really not to lose touch with these prospects. In most cases, when you secret shop practices, you are going to find that the vast majority of them waste the opportunity because if you don't turn them into a consultation or a conversion in that call or in that email, it falls into a black hole. Every lead needs to be collected, their contact information, their email, ideally phone number. But in order for us to get the best opportunities to nurture them and turn them into leads as they go through this buying cycle and through the sales funnel, we need to make sure we're gathering that information and staying on top of them. And it's important for us to include newsletters and updates uh, to really not just your existing patients, but to your prospects. They are by far your hottest and most valuable contacts to build new business. Tip number 18 is to include other vendors and particularly those professional referrers. We all know that referral business is the highest quality leads that a practice can generate. They convert them at a higher level, and quite frankly, they are the best prospects because they're more, quite honestly, more compliant and ultimately more profitable. They're not sitting there negotiating or worrying about price as much as cold leads are. And another tip is to nurture those referring sources, but also how do you get more of them? Is to do outreach. I strongly encourage you to utilize LinkedIn to constantly go out there and do outreach to other potential referring providers and add them to your informational updates and keep them abreast of other information that they can also share with their patients as well. So you will develop more of a referral network when you invest in those referring sources. Tip number 19 is to sync all of your website content, particularly your blog content, with your outgoing e-newsletters and your social media and other outlets. The key is that when you build those blog content, if you don't do anything except for just post it, chances are they're going to get very little traffic. You need to drive people through those through your newsletters, social media, and other sources. And you'll also see that not only do you convert more, but it'll help the SEO of those blogs and with your website. Tip number 20 is immediate follow-up. You've got to stay in front of those hot leads and make sure that you're moving them through the buying cycle within a reasonable amount of time. Plastic surgery practices absolutely need to follow up with email and electronic contacts, certainly with at least 3 times a day. And if you're not, chances are your competitors are, and you're losing leads to them. And then lastly, make sure that when you're following up with leads, that you've developed resources, consumer resources that are of value to them that they're not getting from other websites, like what to expect during a consultation, or frequently asked questions that they can print out about a particular procedure, or ebooks, or consumer guides on different procedures and treatments and technology, or charts that compare different types of technology, or uh, uh, cosmetics or injectables, things like that. Those are the kinds of resources that can help your internal staff members follow up with leads and help them convert them at a higher rate. So those are our 20 tips today. Hopefully you found a lot of use in them and are able to implement them in your offices quickly, and I'm pretty sure you're going to see a an impact that it's making. But I encourage you to try them all. If you have any other questions, I do have my phone number here. That's a direct line, and then my email. I'll be happy to answer any questions, or if you have other things that you'd like for me to address, feel free to contact me. I'll look forward to hearing from you and seeing you at next year's FFAS meeting. Take care and have a good day.